Welcome to Deges Dragons.
I thought this was going to be hard.
Welcome to Deges Dragons.
Who wants some of the Ripper?
Fair state champs, baby. Woo!
Smoke heroes!
He's clearly Captain Crunch. I'm a man of the people.
Shattered world.
Ripper knows! Ripper always knows!
Degecast.
Above the gaming screen I see Deges join the military, patching up the pains that be. Imagine Tony with a PhD. 'Cause each time games are shameless, Nate's jokes are often heinous. We'll show you RPGs are therapy.
And welcome to the MASHED unit of the Degecast, the supplemental podcast for our YouTube show, Deges and Dragons. I'm your host, Nate Lindberg, and you can follow me all over social media at Nate Lindberg. And while you're out there in the universe of the internet, find our brand at Degetime. That's Degetime. And with me today is one of my co-hosts. We have the only member of the Deges and Dragons player panel to sit on every single game we have ever played, and that is Tony Shermooksness. Tony, what's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you, man?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Looking forward to going and hanging out with my family in a little bit for a bit of a birthday party celebration for my sister.
Oh, fun.
I get to get some free food and some cake. I'm happy.
Tell her
I'm
I
happy.
said happy birthday.
I will. And also with me today is our resident Degetime co-creator. He's also our resident therapy and psychology expert and our resident GM, Conrad Audette. Conrad, say hey.
What's up? I'm excited to hear from Mark.
Yes. And speaking about Mark, so we have been playing MASHED, an RPG that brings the excitement of a mobile army surgical hospital right to your table. And what better way to learn a little bit more about this game and how it came to be than to talk with the man behind the MASHED curtain. Please join me in welcoming to the Degecast the creator of MASHED, Mark Plemmons. Mark, thank you very much for taking some time out today to chat with us.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So as I typically will do, I'm going to kick this off to Conrad to get us started.
Okay, so I see that you had published this with Mark Press, and in the back of the book, you have over 75 references. But was this work ultimately a solo venture, or did you work with others compiling this?
No, this was all me. I was in the RPG industry with Kinzer and Company from 2001 to 2011. And then after that, I don't work in the industry full time. Now I'm still in publishing, but I'm in medical publishing now. So Mark Press was a little imprint that I created for my own just solo projects to put things out whenever.
Oh, awesome.
So I get some friends to help out with, looking at playtesting things and whatnot. But otherwise, yeah, I do pretty much all the writing and all the graphic design and research and and everything. Actually, I have a small stack of references here that I brought up from the basement. These are four of my favorites.
No, that's awesome. So you basically created like your own publishing company for your own stuff. Like that's cool. Like much respect to that.
Thanks. It's a lot easier now, of course, now that everything you can just put it on drive through RPG or Lulu or what have you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now we know that this is obviously based on historical events, the Korean War, things like that. But what was the original inspiration for the game?
Well, I was sitting on the couch and I had the MASH TV show playing in the background, and I had the Night Witches RPG on my tablet, and I was kind of just paging through it. And in case you're not familiar, that's about Russian female bomber/fighter pilots in World War II.
What was it? What was the name of it again? Because I'm not familiar with it.
It's Night Witches.
Night Witches. Okay.
So I was just flipping through that RPG on my tablet, and like I say, MASH is on in the background, and it's like one of those peanut butter and jelly moments where everything comes together, and I was like, oh, Night Witches used the Powered by the Apocalypse system to make their game, and that worked out pretty well. Maybe I could do something and just kind of make something based off a MASH unit, and that's how it happened.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Once that kind of that thought appeared in your head, how long did that kind of go from inception to actually marketing and creating MASHED itself?
Well, that's a good question. It's been 3 or 4 years now, I think, since I put MASHED out. So generally, I tend to get an idea, and it takes about 3 years from conception to publication, I think, because I'm just doing it in my spare time.
Yep.
Maybe, a little bit, maybe an hour a day at most, and then maybe a little time on the weekend if I'm lucky. So it takes a long time.
I can completely relate to that. Putting these videos and the Degecast together in my spare time. I know what you mean. So I do have to ask, who was your favorite character on the show, on the MASH show?
That's a toss-up. I started rewatching it now. As soon as I published the game, they took the show off of Hulu.
Of course.
So I was bummed about that, but now I think it's back on Hulu or Netflix. So I was rewatching it again recently. And I don't know, I feel like my favorite characters tend to change every time I watch it, because I'm a little older and I get new appreciation for different people.
Absolutely.
I might have like Trapper better in one viewing, and in a later season I like BJ better. I have more appreciation for Winchester now than I did when I was younger, and I see a lot more evolution from Houlihan than I did before. But I think my all-time favorite is always going to be Radar.
So for me, it's a toss-up between Radar and Klinger. It's a toss-up. I love the zaniness of Klinger, but I relate a lot to Radar in being that nerdy, weird guy. So, but I had to ask. It wasn't one of my favorite shows growing up, but it was my dad's favorite show, so it was always on, and like I watched quite a bit of it. I mean, I liked it, but yeah, I had to ask. I had to find out what your favorite, what your thoughts at least were there. So now you said that you kind of do this in your spare time. What do you kind of do? What do you do when you're not working on RPGs? You said you're like medical publishing.
Yeah, I'm an editor. So I deal with a lot of like doctors and various manuscripts at my full-time job. Outside of that, I don't have a lot of time for things. My wife works a lot of, she's a teacher and teaches from home and does a lot of that in the afternoons. And we have a 7-year-old daughter. So a lot of my evening time is just spent with her and, making dinner and getting her ready for bed and hanging out and watching cartoons. And then after she goes to bed, I can do a little bit of work.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, and what is it about RPGs kind of in general that you're drawn to? It kind of gets you to come back to the table over and over again.
Are we talking about playing or creating, or in general?
Just in general at the moment. We'll get into the creating and the playing in a little bit, but just kind of in general about role-playing games. What is it that you find kind of draws you in?
That's a good question. I guess it's just the ability to lose yourself in a different world, be someone different. I'm not going to give you anything new or profound here. I think it's the same thing that a lot of people would say. Just that to be able to get rid of the normal world for a while and be somewhere else and explore different experiences.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely hear that quite a bit, but we we always like to ask and kind of there are obviously a few different answers and stuff we get to, but
that's mostly our answer too for the most part.
Escapism and the social
absolutely.
aspect of it.
Yeah,
the social aspect of it.
And I mean, do you find anything therapeutic working on these projects for yourself?
Well, it's my main creative outlet. I like to work on something. Just some people paint, some people paint figures, some people paint paintings, or they write stories. Writing games, I think, seems to be my creative outlet. So I tend to get a big idea and then work on it for a few years and then put it out.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can tell that like you're in editing, and two, that you enjoy writing. Like reading through the whole book, it's so well organized and put together, and I generally felt like not only was I learning a lot, because like I can't remember like anything related to the Korean War, and I was talking with one of the players, and he said like, I know for a fact that my high school did not even teach anything about it, like purposefully. And it's like, yeah, that's probably true. And so I felt like I was learning a lot for like the first time. And not only that, but I felt like I could understand the experience, which was new. Like usually like going through history textbooks and whatnot, it's just like I am looking at facts, as opposed to like I felt immersed, and I could relate a lot more easily to how people may have felt over there and like during the time period and whatnot. So saying like, oh, I'm an editor and like I like writing and stuff, like it makes total sense based on like reading other RPGs and PDFs and whatnot, and then reading this was just like, yeah, like it was such a smooth read, and yeah, so it's
That's your 2 cents.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. And it's amazing that like you love like writing and editing so much, where it's like the day job and also like the fun time.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words there. I really appreciate it. Yeah, my day job is more organizational, keeping manuscripts moving and helping the publication process move. I don't do writing or copy editing in my day job, or it probably wouldn't happen in my free time.
I know it's like do you like work on organizing like studies or like the hospital like orders and whatnot themselves? Like, so like I was in a hospital like doing like crisis work, and we'd have to write 13-page reviews for everything, because they could also be used not just for people's mental health, but it could be brought to like a court system, and so needing things to be well written and organized was certainly like a must. So I'm kind of curious like where it is like in the system that you work on.
Well, I work for a medical journal of pediatrics, and my job as publications editor is mostly to assist a number of the editors with, just because authors, doctors, and some non-medical professionals submit manuscripts into an electronic system, and from there they have to be checked in to see that they meet all the requirements. It's just as far as like technical copy editing, and did you put your title on the title page? Did you put your author names in? All that sort of minutia. And then people have to check that in, and then they have to come in to the editors who say, okay, do we want to review this for possible publication, or do we rapid reject it because it's not a fit? And then so it has to go through a peer review process where you reach out to external medical professionals who are in the same field to say, would you please peer review this and let us know what you think? And then it comes back. And then if the editors like it, then they'll send it back to the author for a round of revisions. If they don't like it, they'll reject it. And it basically goes through that back and forth review, revision process until it's ready for publication. So, and then there are, of course, there are forms to be gathered, like copyrights and disclosures, and those have to be checked. There's just a lot of little steps along the way from submission to actual publication in a medical journal. And then of course there are different types of papers within a journal. You might have research articles, you might have review articles, you might have quality reports. So all those things have different editors on them. So I coordinate with a bunch of the editors to just make sure that the manuscripts didn't get lost in the system, that they're being peer reviewed, that late reviewers are being prodded, that things have to be checked. There's a lot of little steps. I could go on for a long time, but we don't need to.
No, but that's more important than ever. I can't tell you like the amount of times like it's like social media, especially where it's like they share like some sort of, like this is like some scientific article or like this medical thing. And you go like through the steps and it's just like totally bogus. And it, like the source material is just made up by somebody like on the spot that has no experience in it. So like the process for actually putting out legitimate medical articles, and it's unbelievably important. I think you follow 3 different links to find if it's like remotely true or whatnot. So yeah, no, it's important.
It is. Unfortunately, since I work in pediatrics, there was nothing I could use for MASHED. But there actually is not a lot of material that has ever been published about the Korean War. Once you start digging into it, there are a handful of reference books, a few first-person accounts, but really not a lot, surprisingly. So I tried to collate as much information as I could and just pick out the parts that were relevant and put it in MASH and make it, as you say, sort of educational, but not with the intent of making an educational game, just trying to be historically accurate.
No, yeah, which is extremely difficult. We actually talked about that after our playthrough, like to actually reflect historical play, to like make it not just portray the information accurately, but then to role play it out in an accurate way and then be fun on top of it. So like all of those like coming together, we're all impressed for sure. And
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now with MASHED, what do you think there's anything about MASHED at all that could be used to help other people? Whether it be therapeutically or even kind of educationally here, what we're talking about. We're just kind of curious to your thoughts of what MASH could be used for, kind of to help people.
As far as therapy, it never occurred to me until I was contacted by the Badhana group, which does some therapy work with RPGs, and then of course they introduced me to Conrad, and then that's why I'm here today. Educational, certainly, I can see. Maybe in a college setting. I don't know if MASH could be used in a high school setting because there are some sensitive topics that some parents might be iffy about having their children interact with. But a college setting, maybe if there was a course on the Korean War, or even spend like a month on the Korean War, actually having students become players who are trying to figure out a MASH unit could be interesting. I do find that it's really helpful if everyone has seen at least like a couple episodes of MASH, maybe the movie, just to kind of, because then you have a visual sense of what everything looks like. You get a little hint of the zaniness that is inherent in the ways that the medics have to blow off steam from what happens in surgery.
What do you think sets MASHED apart from other tabletop RPGs?
Well, as far as I know, it is the first or one of the first to focus on this type of material. There are
one of the first ones I've encountered for sure.
Yeah, there are other games where you don't play combatants necessarily. There are I'm blanking on anything major off the top of my head. Someone's probably yelling at the screen their favorite RPG where you don't play combat, but The Warren is one where you play rabbits, which is a fun little game, but even that can have combat in it. And this can have combat in it, but rarely with guns. You could have an instance where your characters are sent to a aid station on the front lines, and there are, explosions and things happening around you.
Yep.
But your characters aren't the type to pick up a handgun or a rifle and actually wade into it. There is a character in here. There's sort of a grunt option that you can pick, but even they're around camp and they're in camp and they're helping out with things. They can even be pressed into medical issues if the surgeons are shorthanded. I may have gotten off topic because now I don't remember the question.
No, I think that that was a good answer for the question for sure.
Yeah.
You've definitely done an excellent job kind of taking history, describing it accurately, but also making it feel real in the game. Can you tell us a bit more of the process of kind of merging the history, medicine, and the gaming?
Yeah, that is really, it's just a lot of reading and research and going back and forth and trying to find ways to make it work. The types of characters you can play are, in the final version, are the angel, a doc, a padre, you can play a cutter who's your surgeon. Originally, God, I don't even remember what they are now. I was getting very highfalutin. I was doing something with the Greek humors or something. I don't even remember what they are now, but it's choleric is one of them. Are you a choleric type of person? Are you I don't even remember. But it kind of started like that, and the more I was reading, I thought, well, no, we need to really make it tied to your job. A lot of games that use the Powered by the Apocalypse system focus more on personality types rather than professions, but with this, I really had to go with profession to make it work and to have, types of skills and things that each character would have.
Nice. Yeah, no, I definitely saw that in the choices that were offered in the book. And what's your ideal character to build in the MASHED system?
Well, I really like the Padre, but for a straightforward game, the Cutter, the Hawkeye, or the Trapper John or the BJ type character. Tend to be the focus of the game because they're actually in there and they're in the surgical scenes very promptly because you have.
I feel our cutter in our game got a lot of attention. I don't know why.
Cody was the cutter.
I put something in the doc, I believe it was, description, No, I don't think it's in the. I don't remember if it's in the rules. I was going to reread my own book before I sat down and had this interview, but time got away from me. There's something in there with the dock where it's basically like, the cutters get all the attention, and you're just, you're mending the broken bones and you're doing all the non-surgical activity, and you get overlooked sometimes. So you want to push back against that and make sure your character is not getting lost.
Right. No, definitely. So, I think we feel like, all of us, when we kind of already talked about it a little bit here, but, I know the three of us, as well as the other players, we talked about, we kind of feel like we learned quite a bit about our own real life world through this book. Do you think you'd ever take on another type of history project, or even consider maybe even being a history teacher or professor at some point?
About the only subject I would be qualified to teach would be the history of Star Trek. But I would certainly do another history project if I had a subject that interested me.
Sure.
This was kind of like I said, that peanut butter and jelly where two things came together, and I was like, oh, this really excites me. So now I want to do this. But I have a friend who is she's just started playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. It's her very first time as GM, and so we're all having a good time with it. I don't know if you can see, or if you are the final viewers will be able to see the names on our screens. Mine right now says Lida Underbow, which obviously is not my real name. That's my character that I'm playing in her game on Sunday nights.
Nice.
I forgot to change it before I signed in.
That's okay. It doesn't show up in the recording.
But yeah, so I would definitely be interested in in another historical period if it hit that spark.
Absolutely.
Because I only design and write when I'm really interested in something.
Again, I can totally relate to that. If I start working on a project and it doesn't capture me, that project typically won't get finished unless I really have to push myself to do it. But no, I absolutely get you there. So can we expect additional content for this game or additional works from you going forward here in the future?
Certainly additional work from me once I've done a game. Once I've published it, I sometimes do a little bit of supplemental material for it. MASHED, you may have seen, I did some card decks for it that are optional that you can use for playing out surgeries or for laying out your camp layout on the table. I did some special extra character sheets where they're actually character books, and a handful of little just 2 or 3 page PDF scenarios. But generally, once I have a project behind me, I tend not to go back to it very often. I have been pondering a second edition of Corporea for a few years, which was my knights reincarnated in a future, not a cyberpunk scenario. It's more because everything is clean and neat and the corporations have taken over, and outwardly everything seems great, but as rights are suppressed and things like that. So
okay,
I did that. That was my first Bravo Mark press game back in 2011, I think, or 2013 may have been when it finally came out. But so I've been pondering going back to that with a new system or something. I just released, the week after Thanksgiving, I've just released Zyborg Commando Resurrection Overdrive, which is about, it's a parody of the old Cyber Commando game that came out back in the 80s.
Okay.
And it basically, you're playing an undead soldier who has risen from the grave to refight the war that you lost the first time.
All right.
And
that sounds incredible.
I love it.
I think it's a lot of fun. Combat is very tactical and teamwork based, but there's a huge part of the game that is actually about a secret that you took with you to the grave, or that you have now after, shortly after you're reborn. It's a new secret, something to do with your teammates, or other things that I won't reveal on line, because it's a bit of a secret for the player. Each player has their own secret. You have torments of things that have tormented you since you've risen from the grave. You have, and it's a fairly quick to advance in level. There's only 8 levels, and typically advancement is 25 XP per level, and you get 10 XP every time you level, and you can earn XP by exploiting trust or having critical failures and other things like that. So you can actually earn you can earn XP through the game. So potentially you could level up every couple sessions.
Nice.
And but as you level, so you're gaining in power, but you are also losing your humanity. So part of your character sheet is a brain diagram where you have memories written on it.
Okay.
And as you level and as things happen to you in the game, you actually scribble over that brain sector. So you are losing your memories and your humanity while you're leveling up.
I like that.
At the very end, once you hit your very last level, your nanobots stop working, you stop regenerating. So you are going to die for a final time. And that's when you reveal your secret to the players. That was inspired by a game called The Mountain Witch, which is about samurai on a journey up a mountain, and then at the end they reveal a secret to the other players. And of course, there's also hunger in this. You're constantly fighting with the hunger to eat flesh, and as things happen to you, you might take a critical failure, or the game master might impose hunger for some reason, but you have the little sections on your sheet where you fill them up, and once those are filled, then you're basically a zombie until you can eat flesh and regain your sanity. So it's a lot of mental darkness.
Yeah.
That I wanted to put in this one. So it's a weird mix of like old school tactical combat and sort of modern narrative, emotional material, and you should check it out if you have a chance. I can shoot you over a copy. I have print on demand coming soon. But so that's my current one that just came out, and Christmas is not the best time to release it, but I was like, let's just get it out because I've been working on it for too long. I need to release it.
I know that feeling too.
That sounds amazing.
It does.
Constantly like implant secrets into like every player's backstory, that like, so the players are constant in just other games. Like I love doing that and having people keeping some sort of secret from one another, and it just makes things more compelling. So like having that built into the system sounds great. And then that brain diagram, that sounds so cool. Like
everything about
it's super great, super unique.
Everything about the game is as you were describing it, Mark. I'm sitting here going, this sounds exactly like a Conrad game.
Yes. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like exactly like, it sounds so great.
Yeah.
It's I kept it pretty compact. It's 80 pages. And actually about half of that is the game master material.
Oh wow.
I took a lot of inspiration, things I learned writing MASHED, about narrative role play, specifically how Powered by the Apocalypse handles things. Cyborg Commando Resurrection Apocalypse is not Powered by the Apocalypse. I reworked the D10X system that the old Cyborg Commando used, but I really wanted to include a lot of helpful game master advice, and I'm really proud of how the Game Master section turned out. It's got a lot of useful info in it.
Beautiful, beautiful. No, that sounds awesome. I think that's certainly something we're going to be checking out. Whether we do it for the show or we do it for fun, I want to play it, and I think Conrad
definitely.
I think Conrad wants to run it. I can see the wheels turning in his head already. But no, Mark, we want to just say thank you again for sitting down today, chatting with us, talking a little bit about your game and some of the other things you're working on. Where can we find the things that you're working on Drive-Thru RPG or?
I have everything on Drive-Thru RPG. I have my own site, which is just brabblemark.com, and that has pictures and brief descriptions of each of the games and some basic links to the character sheet. But as far as a store, everything just links straight to the Drive-Thru RPG site. So you could look for brabblemark.com or Brabblemark Press over on Drive-Thru.
Perfect. So yeah, guys, if you want to pick up MASHED or any of the other games that we were talking about, please head over Drive-Thru RPG, check it out, and pick them up, pick up a copy. So again, like I said, Mark, thank you very much for coming out, sitting with us today, chatting, and
yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.